Coach Prime. Joe, you've got this audio queued up, and Coach Prime decided to wax poetic again about explain his recruiting philosophy and why he does not recruit many high school players. And at 7-2 with the Buffaloes, he's got the bully pulpit right now, and so that has been the criticism. Recruit more high school kids. He says no. I still think he could probably get more really good players. He may get Juju Lewis, who may decommit from USC. A lot of the recruiting gurus have him pegged for Colorado, even though he is going to head to visit Georgia this weekend. Juju Lewis is from Carrollton, Georgia. I don't know if we said this. The funny part of Juju Lewis is he's a kid from Georgia, committed to USC, and a lot of people think he should either go to Colorado or Indiana. That's college football 2024. He'll play right away at either place. But here's Coach Prime on his recruiting philosophy. Joe, hit it.
Just say we get 25 high school players. How many is going to play that freshman year at the most? Let's say 4 or 5, right? And so now you got 20 guys redshirted. So when you go through that spring with that 20 guys redshirted, how many are you going to retain after that spring? Or how many are going to jump in the portal on you? Let's just do it. If any one of you going to go statistically and try to calculate this, I already done it. So it's going to be how many? Half. Okay, why don't I just focus on 10? Guys that can see, when we grab a freshman, we expect that guy to play. We're not looking at, hey man, we can just redshirt you, develop you. No. We're looking for you to come in and play some football. I don't give a darn if it's a walk-on, if it's a Cash Cleveland. We expect you to play. So our approach is somewhat different, heavily scrutinized, heavily criticized, but we know what we're doing. So if anybody ever did the homework and the statistics of these young men, that people have a class that they say is the number 1 class in the nation, then 5 of those guys play or 4 of those guys play, then the rest go through the spring, then they jump in the portal. Give me those numbers. Don't give me the numbers of where you rank nationally recruiting, because it's just like an NFL team. You always say who won the draft. Then the team gets killed all year. You don't say nothing else about it. Who won the draft last year in the NFL? Nobody care right now, right? Exactly. You see what I'm saying?
I think it was the Bears.
Doesn't look pretty. It's not paying off.
Yeah. Ross, what do you think?
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting take that probably has some truth to it. I'm sure a lot of freshmen who don't play these days, right, in this era, their first year, they leave. Right, during spring, the spring portal window, or even the fall portal window now. So he's got a point of take whatever 8, 10, 12 high school kids, and then fill, with 8, 10, 12 transfers. Right. This was always. I remember when the immediate transfer eligibility became a thing a few years ago. The first thing that coaches said, well, this is going to turn into, for the top of the sport, the farm system, where they're just going to go down and pluck developed guys up, and that way they can plug them in. And we've seen a lot of that, right? We've seen that, and that's probably what Deion Sanders is talking about there, is grabbing those guys who have developed and not developing them, not grabbing enough of them to develop. Maybe grabbing a small portion. And it does. It kind of makes a lot of sense. He said he's done the research. I'd love to see those numbers. Those are pretty deep numbers. So I'd love to see what's true there exactly. But it's an interesting take that I think we probably will see, unless you're at the top, Dan, right? The Alabamas, the LSUs, the Ohio States, where you're getting 5 and 4 stars, your whole 25 or 4 and 5 stars. If you have to drop lower, the mid-tier to lower-tier power conference schools, I don't know why they wouldn't just sign 10, 12, 15 high school players and fill them in with 10 portal guys.
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating point and probably pretty savvy way to look at things here in the real world, in the modern world. I looked just This is small sample size here, okay? But Georgia had the number 1 recruiting class. So they brought in the most studs. This is according to Rivals. They've had 2 freshmen that have played a lot, right? Nate Frazier, running back, really good. He's their number 2 rusher. And KJ Bolden, defensive back, very good, has played a lot. Chris Cole, linebacker, 4-star, has played some. And so some other defensive guys have played a little. Okay, a few games, maybe a lot of special teams. Not sure exactly what their ratio is of getting on the field for every downs or if they're just special teams guys. Ellis Robinson was the number 3 recruit in the country. Has barely played for Georgia. So this is just Georgia, but this is the best class, and there's not many of them getting on the field. There's 2 high-impact guys, 3 impact guys, and some other contributors, I would say. So his numbers, I think his math is not far off there. In the top 10, Williams Winery, the big recruiting coup for Missouri, who they got over Georgia and over Oklahoma, defensive end from Kansas City with a big NIL haul. 3 games played, 2 tackles. Both against UMass, Dan. Both against UMass.
We just catch strays. We just catch strays.
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't have a tackle against UMass, right?
Yeah, right. Everyone played. Defensive tackle David Stone, top 10 guy, Oklahoma. He's playing every game, but he has 2 solo tackles. So there's, Jeremiah Smith, Dylan Raiola, Ryan Williams. There's some guys making impacts, but they're not whole classes of guys making impacts. So Deion's right. At least with my small sample size of right here, right now this year. So if you can go out and get the James Madison roster to go to Indiana, per se, instead of getting freshmen, look what you can do.
So, yeah, it's very interesting how he put it. It's almost like you're just – so you have 85, right? You really need – an NFL team has 45 to 53 guys, 45 active, 53 on the roster, and they can play in a week with that many guys. I'm guessing that's about what a college football team will play. 45 to 53 guys will play all of your snaps, not the vast majority of your snaps, and it may be as low as 35, right? I mean, some guys aren't coming off.
SEC, the full participation list last year in the SEC, it was basically mid-50s.
Okay,
were playing at all,
and that's some special teams and things like that.
Right. Yeah.
So you're basically wasting 30 to 40% of your roster on developmental guys. Is kind of what I'm seeing him say. So if you're going to play 50, you got 85, and 35 guys are just there. And that used to work. And you get guys, let's put some weight on him. We like him. He's going to learn maybe by junior. He's a good lineman, or he's this or that, or QBs, or we got depth at all these positions. And that's fine. And I would still do that if I was Georgia. But I mean, you look at Prime's recruiting class, he has 10 kids committed. He's got 3 4-stars and only one Chauncey Gooden out of Tennessee that's ranked. Now, I may get Juju Lewis. I believe his top 30, he has 4 kids that he recruited out of high school, either last year or this year, playing in the top 30 snaps. So most of his guys are transfers. But it's almost like it's more efficient to have 75 players as veterans and that you brought in because you think they can play right away, and 10 freshmen developing. Just by numerically, you have a better chance of, out of those 75 transfers who are juniors or sophomores on up to grad, right? You've got a better shot numerically of finding 45, 50 guys out of that than you do if you've got 25 freshmen standing there and you're only going to play 2. So it's almost like a Moneyball game here. His calculations, I'd like to see his calculations too, because I find it funny. We ran all the numbers. What's the split? Half. Okay, that's probably not it. Yeah. It's probably 46.8 or whatever, but it's kind of funny. But there's almost like, right? Like and then I wonder, okay, if everyone starts doing this, how many 3 and even 4-star players are going to end up at the Sun Belt? Because
lower level, yeah.
Right? You're just not getting.
It's happening now.
Yeah. Kids are getting dropped down because it's like, I don't have any room for you. I'm only taking, I'm not recruiting 25 high school kids. I'm going to recruit 12. Now, you also then have a lot of churn in if you have 75 transfers on your team, you're bringing kids in, and some of those are not going to pan out. They're going to then bolt out. So there's going to be, it looks like a lot of churn. It looks ugly. I remember when they were like, Colorado had last year, they had 40 guys leaving or something like that. I'm like, is that bad or good? I don't know, but it was deemed bad.
Oh yeah, deemed chaos. Turmoil. Yeah.
Prime, Dern. My favorite part of him is saying Dern. I don't. Great word. If I could stop swearing, I'd use Dern. I'm going to try just for you, Coach Sanders. I don't know. I just this was like first time you heard Bill James talk about something. I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? It's like this is really intriguing.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. Again, not everybody's going to want to follow that math equation. People are going to recruit differently, and some places still can retain and develop. But then
Colorado ain't it.
There's a lot of places.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it if I was Ohio State. I wouldn't do it if I was Alabama.
Right. Yeah,
right.
If you're at that level.
That's
right. I mean,
Texas.
Clemson, right, is a good example of they retain just as much as anybody.
Yeah.
Right? And they still, Dabo still hasn't taken a transfer except the quarterback that was previously on his team.
Neither is Army.
Yep. That's right.
That's stat of the year. Army, Navy, Air Force, and Clemson. Only schools that didn't take. Which one's like the other? Yeah, I just wonder if it's just a numbers game, and you're sitting there saying, "All right, I need 45 guys. I basically need 45 guys, and if I get 45 guys, I'm going to win. I'd rather have I'm choosing from 75 than I'm choosing from 60. And if I'm like, all right, Colorado, I'm looking at this class. I don't know. Maybe these guys all turn out great, but they're a bunch of 3 stars. So you got to totally believe in them. I don't know, pretty interesting.
Yeah, and looking there, Jordan Seaton, offensive tackle, who was like the top offensive tackle in the country. He's playing.
Yep.
And he's starting. He's doing fine. And then they got like a DB and a wide receiver, but that out of the freshman class, that's about it that I could see.